Fullback Greg Brentnell from Wagga Turvey Park. Number 2, big 14.5 stone winger Eric White from Dapto. And on the other wing, another 14.5 stone player Terry Fay from Wellington, number 5. Number 3 is Mike Cronin. Number 6, Ian Martin, has come out. He's a former Manly player. And there's Steve Hewson, the very promising young halfback from Queanbeyan United, Steve Hewson. Number 8 is the lock forward John Ballasty, former Eastern Suburbs 5/8, playing lock forward for Country today. Number 9 is Ron Fogarty, former Newtown player, now playing with Port Kembla. Number 10 is Steve McDonald. And there's 11, Len Bertoldo. Steve McDonald is from Wagga Kangaroos. Number 11, Len Bertoldo, Griffith Waratahs. Number 12 is Alan Dagwall from Newcastle West, the hooker. Another young fellow who's come to Sydney with a big reputation. And then we have 3 coming out together here, Mick Cronin and Peter Kennedy. Cronin number 3, Kennedy number 4, the centres. And number 13 is the captain, Jim Morgan, former Eastern Suburbs and South Sydney player, and now playing with Queanbeyan United, the Country captain. So the 2 captains now, with the referee, Richie Humphreys. The coin has been tossed. In a moment we'll know who has won. Is Richie Humphreys. The kick-off is by Mick Cronin, Australia centre for Country, and my co-commentator once again is Les Johns.
Great game coming up, I think, John, especially with Country having first use of this breeze. They have a chance to get in front early.
Well, they're going to have to play extremely well to get in front, because this is a very, very powerful Sydney combination. And that's Rodinicus down on his own quarter line, playing the ball for Sydney. Arthur Beetson now taking play into the ruck, but unable to get rid of the pass, and that's what the Country boys will have to do. Get right around Beetson, smother that pass, prevent him from getting the ball away. That's Stevens, second row forward. And it's McMartin at dummy half. Beetson caught by Dagwall. This time he gets it away nicely to Fairfax standing up. That's Brannigan. Caught by Kennedy, the Country centre. Kennedy playing for the 3rd time for New South Wales Country in Sydney today. He played in 72 and 73. Bob McCarthy down in the 6th tackle. So the first scrum of the match, midway between the quarter line and halfway on Sydney's side of the halfway line.
Alan Dagwall, the Country hooker, will be a key player here today if he can get some of the ball.
Rodinicus feeds the scrum, but it's a Sydney ball. Rodinicus lost it for a moment, but it was a knockback. That's McCarthy playing in an unaccustomed role for him today at prop forward, although he has played there. It was Ron Coote, by the way, not McCarthy, but as I was saying, McCarthy in the front row today, not a role to which he's really accustomed, although he has played there, both in representative teams and for his club, South Sydney. Play about 12 metres on Sydney's side of the halfway line. Pickup playing it to Beetson. Caught again by Dagwall, who makes sure of hanging onto the ball this time. With some assistance there from the lock forward Ballasty. McMartin. The kick is by McCarthy. And he'll find touch. I don't know whether that's exactly what he intended to do, but he's found touch a few metres on Country side of halfway.
Dagwall, also a very good player in the open, has the ability to pick the ball up from dummy half and make good ground. Now the Country forwards have got to get with him if he is able to do this today.
Country's ball in this time. Hewson serving the scrum. He's been recalled. And there's the first penalty of the match against Country for allowing that scrum to move back and off the mark. And it's Bobby Fulton taking the kick, looking for the line. And he's found touch just inside the quarter on Country's end of the ground. Now this puts Sydney right on the attack. McMartin, dummies to Beetson, got it to Sate, McCarthy, Coote, out towards Schubert, but well picked up there by the Country winger, Terry Fay, just outside his own quarter line. Bertoldo at dummy half. And it's not a big Country team when you consider that Len Bertoldo is perhaps the heaviest man in the Country team, and he's dwarfed by several of the Sydney forwards. penalty to country, and that's against Sydney for not allowing Bertoldo to play that ball. Brentnell, who is a noted long kicker, should nearly kick this ball out of sight. Country in possession, just on Sydney's side of the halfway line. Dagwall to Bertoldo. A few metres in Sydney's half now. Dagwall at dummy half. Ballasty, the lock forward. Morgan. Mishandled by Fogarty, but still country's ball. Ballasty back onto that one. This is Hewson, and he's going to be a danger man for Sydney. Through Beetson's tackle there, but well stopped by Schubert and McMartin. Country in Sydney's half now. Ballasty back into the forwards nicely. McDonald, the 18-year-old second row forward from Wagga, held in the tackle that time. And this is the winger, Fay, to the country quarter line, to the Sydney quarter line, the sixth tackle and the scrum to go down.
Now, if country can make breaks like they did in the last couple of minutes, those breaks then are going to give them plenty of confidence that they can pierce this City tight defence.
It's going to be country's ball. Hewson. Too much defence there for him. Coote and Rhodonicus. Now that's Fogarty. Back to McDonald, but forward to McDonald. Penalty against Fogarty for that deliberate forward, and that relieves the pressure for the Sydney team. Now it's Fulton again to kick for touch over on the showground side of the field. Not gaining much ground, but there's a strong breeze blowing against Sydney in this first half. That's McCarthy straight into the forwards. Nicely away to Coote. Coote near halfway. Schubert on the wing. Held it beautifully. Brentnell, the fullback, but no, again the referee has ruled a forward pass. This time the ball floated forward. Schubert came from behind to gather that pass, so the scrum goes down for the forward. Just in Sydney's half.
This wind is getting gustier now.
Penalty is against the country hooker Dagwall for feet across the scrum there. Premature striking. Fulton again looking for the line. And that's a good kick by Fulton. Takes play inside the quarter on country's end of the ground. Good kick indeed. The free kick now by Rhodonicus on to Sate and then Beetson. Back to Rhodonicus. Inside the country quarter line. Sydney in an attacking position. McMartin at dummy half. That's Sate. Well stopped by Fogarty and the 5'8" Ian Martin. 12 metres out from the country line. McMartin. Rhodonicus. Out to pick up. Back to Beetson. Beetson very powerful. Not far from the line. Only about 7 or 8 metres out now. Country defence will have to be good now. That's Sate. Away to Rhodonicus. Pick up. Little kick is not a good one by Rhodonicus. Well picked up by Fay. Country winger. 10 metres out from his own line. Oh, knocked on by Dagwall at dummy half. So we'll have the scrum 10 metres out from country's line. Still no score in the game after 7 minutes of play.
This is a critical area here for country, and they must use the wind to get out of here.
Steve Hewson putting the ball in the pack. But it's going to be Sydney's ball, I think, is it? No, Hewson has it. Only a few metres out from his own line. Well, it looked as if Sydney was going to win that ball, but it went back through the scrum. Knocked on by the country dummy half. And knocked on also by Sydney. So another scrum, only about 5 or 6 metres out this time from country's line. Hewson's ball in and out of the scrum. Country's ball. Hewson. 8 metres out from his own line. That's the lock forward, Ballasty. 15 metres out from country's line. Dagwall now at dummy half. To Bertoldo. Still just inside the quarter, country's end of the ground. They're gradually making ground, forcing Sydney back. Dagwall at dummy half. Long pass back to the fullback, Brentnell. Good tackle by Rhodonicus, but Brentnell not held. On the country quarter now. Brentnell, the fullback, to play it. Dagwall again at dummy half. to Morgan this time. And back nicely to Hewson. And if Hewson gets half a gap, he's a very dangerous man because he's got a tremendous change of pace and excellent speed. Fifth tackle indicated as Dagwell kicks, and that's out on the full. So the scrum will come back to where he kicked the ball just a few metres on Country side of halfway.
Well, already we've seen that Country have got some experienced players there, and they're certainly not being overawed by the situation today. And if they can get points on the board early in this half, I'm sure they'll put up a good fight today.
Country's ball, but no, the referee wants it in again. Sydney's ball, Raudonikis, held by Fay, just in Country's half now. That's Coote. On to the winger Schubert. Schubert a few metres in Country's half. McCarthy. These big fellows are going to take some holding for 80 minutes. They're much heavier than the Country team. Pick up. 12 metres short of the Country quarter line. Now it's McMartin at dummy half to Beatson. Nice little dummy from Beatson, and that's Raudonikis inside the quarter. Sydney well on the attack again, but that's the fifth tackle. That's pick up, Fulton, and a collision. Fulton lost it, so the knock-on is played on the Country quarter line. Still no score, 10 minutes gone. Having difficulty in getting in. Sydney pack is forcing that Country pack back. Too powerful for them. That's the fullback Fairfax up. Fairfax inside the quarter, plays it to Schubert. Sate, he's lost it. And the scrum will go down again inside the quarter line on Country's end of the ground.
Bretnall, the Country fullback, a good blindside player, so we can expect to see him coming up the blind here, and it's a good situation for him here.
And that's loose arm, Dagwell. Penalty against the Country hooker, and this is a scoring chance for Sydney, and Ray Brannigan is making his way over towards the mark, so it looks as if Brannigan is going to take the attempts at goal for the Sydney team, and he'll place the ball just outside the quarter line, and he's about 15 metres from touch, 12 to 15 metres from touch on the showground side. So he's kicking directly into the sou'wester, which is blowing, and it's quite strong.
The Sydney team will take it just a little bit of time to settle down. It's usual that when you get in a team with players from all different clubs, obviously it's a little bit strange to start with, but being most of them internationals as they are, they won't take too long to settle down. So obviously Country has got to make the most of the early moments and get right into the Sydney teams with their tackling and also with their attacking. And with this wind, they should be making it as much gain out of the wind as possible, which means putting the ball down deep.
Well, we'll bring you the result of that kick from Ray Brannigan at the sports ground. It's 7:40 back to Norman May and Trevor Allen.
Now it's to Dagwell. Dagwell not far off the line, but will be held up in the sixth tackle, so the scrum will go down 5 metres from the Sydney line.
Country, when it was necessary then, showing a little bit of lack of understanding. They didn't have a definite move on, and you've got to have some sort of a move in that position.
It's an important scrum for Country. Only a few metres out from the Sydney line. And the penalty is against Sydney. Loose arm ruled against the Sydney hooker McMartin. And so here's a scoring opportunity for Country. Well, I can't see Mick Cronin coming up, can I? Yes, Mick Cronin has been given the ball. It's going to be an attempted penalty goal, and he'll place it just inside the quarter line. And he'd be about, I suppose, 20 metres out from centre field. It's not a difficult one for Cronin, and it gives him the opportunity of putting Country in front. No score at the moment, and almost 16 minutes gone.
Cronin, Ballasty, out there at 5'8", Martin, very key players here today, all with their Sydney experience. Jimmy Morgan as well, the captain. Key players today in Country's attempt to win this game, and these fellas have got to lead the newer chaps into and give good example. So we can expect to see a lot, especially from Ian Martin at 5'8". He's a devastating tackler, and that's what we need again. Or that's what I'm not biased at all, having come from the country, mind you, but I'd like to see country give a good account of themselves, and that's what they need today. Someone who will repel the city players with their tackling.
Some time taken off because the ball rolled off the mark, but it's time on again now. It's Mick Cronin for country. Good looking kick, but no goal. Out to the left, over the dead ball line, so it's still 0-0. 16.5 minutes gone in the first half. Now it's Fairfax with the dropout. And he's got good distance with that one into the wind. Brentnell near his own quarter line. Back towards halfway he goes. Around Schubert. But well taken by Sate in that tackle about 8 metres from the halfway line. Dagwall. Bertoldo, he's left it behind. Regains though. 10 metres in country's half. Dagwall. Dagwall close to the halfway line. Now it's Hewson at dummy half. And through Ballasty to Morgan. Teammates at Queanbeyan. Hewson to Ballasty again. Over halfway. Look for somebody trying to get that ball away. And that's Fairfax inside the quarter line. McDonald's missed him. Good run by Fairfax. Got it away to Schubert. Held by Fay. Back to Fairfax. And Fairfax is about 15 metres on Sydney's side of the halfway line. Now it's Fulton at dummy half. To McCarthy. McCarthy still 13 or 14 metres in Sydney's half. That's Stevens, second row forward. Just a few metres on his own side of the halfway line. The referee has not held. Stevens hesitated for a moment, thinking the referee might have ordered him to play the ball. McMartin to Rodonicus. Beatson. Fulton. Out of Morgan's tackle. Schubert. But too much defence there for the young Sydney winger. Coote. Sate. Pick up. Well taken by his opposite number, Martin. 10 metres short of the country quarter line. Fifth tackle. And that's Rodonicus. Sixth tackle. And the referee will order the scrum just outside the quarter line on country's end of the ground.
And Bobby Fulton, of course, a very critical player in the team for the City team. It's these sort of games that he really excels.
And the penalty is against country. And this is well within kicking distance again for Ray Brannigan, and the centre is coming over to attempt the goal. He's 5 or 6 metres outside the quarter line and not far this time from centre field. He'd be about 10 or 12 metres off centre field.
At this stage, I feel that country are taking a little bit too long to recover from a Sydney move. When Sydney makes some ground in a run, country all seem to be bunched in around the man playing the ball. They've got to quickly spread out, fill in, move out, or talk to each other and get an understanding whereby they know who's going to be filling in the defensive positions, whereas City are taking their time and their defensive pattern is coming as it should, but country are bunching a little bit, and this spells danger, especially, as I said, if a man like Fulton or Fairfax gets the ball.
That's Ray Brannigan for Sydney with his second attempted penalty goal. He missed with the first. But he's got this one right over the black spot. 2 points to 0 in favour of Sydney. 20 minutes gone.
A very vital match, this one, of course, for future representative games, as we see that only 2 weeks from today there's a game being played against one of these first World Cup series against New Zealand. So everyone's out there is on trial today for a spot in the Australian team.
Cronin kicking out for country. That's Fairfax. Just outside his own quarter, well stopped by Bertoldo. Now Coote away to Sate. That's good defence by country. 10 metres outside the Sydney quarter line. McMartin at dummy half. Rodonicus. Oh, Beatson allowed that one to float past him, but it's Fairfax who has recovered for Sydney. Fairfax back to almost to where he was tackled previously. McMartin now to the blind side. Cronin the tackler. 12 metres on Sydney side of the halfway line. Coote at dummy half. Beatson now. Got support coming through, but unable to get rid of it. Now he has. That's Rhodonicus. That looked dangerously close to a shepherd to me, but play on, says the referee. About 10 metres short of the halfway line. Fifth tackle, McCarthy. The kick is by Pickup, looking for touch, and he's found it, gaining good ground for Sydney. Well-judged kick by the Sydney 5'8", just short of the country quarter line.
A good kick by Pickup, and even though the flags on the buildings high up are blowing against City, the flags down on the ground seem to be blowing with them and changing around. This is the Sydney Cricket Ground corridors of air.
The ball straight through the centre tunnel. Hewson's ball in, and it's Hewson with the ball. Well tackled by Coote. That's Fogarty. Fogarty about 12 to 13 metres on countryside of the halfway line. Martin at dummy half. He's been there quite often, the 5'8". That's Kennedy in the centre. Peter Kennedy playing.
The numbers in the first leg of the Daily Double at Warwick Farm: 3, 10 and 5. 3 Public Service, number 10 Nourishing, and 5 Fine Style. Progress score from the Sydney Sports Ground: New South Wales 11, leading England 7.
Morgan a few metres on Sydney side of the halfway line. Fifth tackle, Dagwall. Away to Ballasty. And that's not a bad kick either. Plenty of country players underneath it, but good take by Fairfax. He gets up a long way to catch that ball. Very safe indeed. That's Coote from dummy half. Pick up about 10 metres outside his own quarter line. Well taken by Ian Martin. Brannigan away to McCarthy, but not a good pass. And Kennedy can't hold it. Sydney back in possession, just on Sydney side of the halfway line. And the tackle count restarts. That's Sate. Sate just in country's half. Back to Rhodonicus. And the tackler was Ballasty. That's McMartin to McCarthy. Reverse then to Pick Up, and Pick Up through the gap. Up towards the quarter line. He's got Fulton outside, but inside it goes to McMartin, and on towards Coote, who can't hold it. Knock on. The scrum about 10 metres out from the country line.
Tackling has got to be country's main weapon against the City in this first half. They've got to get right into them and make them rather reluctant to keep coming.
Country's ball. Hewson to Martin, to Ballasty at least standing out, but the next pass, not a good one. It's Sydney in possession, but knocked on by both teams.
And if they can rattle them in defence, then City might just stay rattled for the whole of the game and give country a chance to settle down and plan some attacking moves themselves.
And the penalty is against country for moving that scrum off the mark, well away from the mark, and this is a gift for Sydney. The penalty right in front, about 12 metres out. Score is 2 points to 0 at the moment. Ray Brannigan having kicked 1 goal from his 2 previous attempts. 2-0, 25, just on 25 minutes gone.
Chris Anderson on the wing out here, just come back from overseas. He's had a very good game in the Wembley Cup over there, and he's right in line for a shot in state selection, the team being picked tomorrow night after the club games, and he'll be looking for plenty of opportunities. And here's a player, Chris Anderson, number 2 down there, who does follow and make his own opportunities. So we expect to see quite a bit of Chris Anderson for the rest of the game.
Ray Brannigan makes it 4-0 in favour of Sydney. Just over 25 minutes gone. Country once more to bring the ball back to the halfway line for the kick-off.
The man there with the ball now, Mick Cronin, a fellow who could really put some life into this game if they get the ball to him. He's very deceptive in his stride. Even looking on the television, he looks to be going in about second gear, but in actual fact he's striding out, and that's a very deceptive stride.
Cronin kicking off again for country. A shorter one this time, varying the kick-off, and that's Stevens. Stevens about 12 metres on his own side of the halfway line. Beatson from dummy half. Tried to get that ball away, but rather too deliberately, and it was well held. McMartin out to Sate. Sate still about 8 metres in Sydney's half. Sydney 4, leading Country 0. It's McCarthy back to Rhodonicus.
England have drawn level with New South Wales at the Sydney Sports Ground, 11-all after a try beside the right-hand upright.
But good tackling there by McDonald once more. McCarthy away to Fulton, but that kick is straight to Fay on the wing. Well held, though, by Schubert, managing to stay in field. Now, that's Cronin getting in close to the ruck, looking for opportunities. Cronin, a few metres in his own half. Dagwall from dummy half, right to the halfway line. Cronin again in there, close to the ruck. But it's Dagwall at dummy half. Ballasty, dummy to Morgan, and got it away to Bertoldo, who couldn't handle it. And it's Sydney's ball, right on the halfway line. Stevens to play it. Now from the ruck out to the open. That's pick up. Pick up over the halfway line. Brannigan couldn't handle it. Picked up by Fairfax. Fairfax just in Country's half. Now through Rhodonicus to Sate. Sate looking for the opening, but that's good defence by Country. Sydney backwards and forwards across field at the moment. McMartin to Beatson. Beatson makes a bit of ground. 12 or 13 metres in Country's half. McMartin at dummy half. Stevens through McCarthy, right out to Schubert on the wing. Schubert around Fay, but good tackling by Cronin on the Country quarter line. Now that's Rhodonicus, McCarthy, back to pick up. Beatson over the quarter line, lost it. Country's ball. Inside the quarter line, it's Dagwall to play it. Morgan now from dummy half. Just over the quarter line. Still 4 points to 0 in favour of Sydney, and about 12 minutes left in this first half. And not too much has happened in this game as yet. That's Fogarty. Fogarty for Country. Dagwall again at dummy half. Back to Brentnall. Rhodonicus this time fails to catch him. And that kick is well into Sydney's half. Fairfax back near his own quarter line picks it up. Has Schubert with him. Fairfax should regain. No, knocked away from him by one of the Country players. The referee has ruled knock on by McDonald.
Very good thinking then by Fairfax. There were about 5 players coming up to tackle him, but he did a smart thing, put it over the top.
The scrum is just on Sydney's side of the halfway line, but a penalty this time against Sydney for moving it off the mark. And Brentnall now will have the opportunity of taking play deep onto Sydney's end of the ground. 4-0 in favour of the quarter line. Hewson 15 metres on Sydney's side of the halfway line. Bertoldo from dummy half. Out of one tackle, got it away nicely to Dagwall. Dagwall inside the quarter line. Country on the attack now. That's Ballasty.